The More You Know is a media and tech literacy series produced by Independent Thinker. It aims to help the public become more knowledgeable about our digital world. On this episode, we cover Cellebrite, the surveillance company hacking phones globally.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are so thrilled to have you here with us today. Let me just start by asking you a question about something that is probably sitting right within arm's reach of you right now.
I'm guessing you mean their smartphone.
Exactly. You probably think a locked smartphone keeps your private life, entirely private.
Yeah.
You've got your passcode, maybe your Face ID, and you sort of just assume that acts as an ironclad vault.
That's right. The standard expectation of privacy.
Yeah. But what if I told you that in a modern murder trial, the evidence used against the suspect wasn't just text messages or emails, but their phones get its battery temperature or its pocket state?
It sounds like a concept pulled straight out of a science fiction movie, but it is very much the reality of modern forensics.
It really is. So today's deep dive is venturing into the surprisingly deep and highly invasive world of digital surveillance and data privacy. We're looking at what actually happens when the authorities get their hands on your phone.
And it is a lot more than just reading your texts.
Oh, absolutely. To guide us, we have two really fascinating sources on the desk today. The first is a detailed transcript from a show called The What and the Why. It's hosted by a criminal lawyer named Nick Hanna, and he conducted this massive expose on an Israeli surveillance and digital intelligence company called Cellebrite.
And the second source?
The second source is a project brief from Independent Thinker, LLC. This brief outlines what they call a digital transparency strategy. They actually take Hannah's video and use it to create a Data Privacy Day public service announcement aimed specifically at the Hispanic and Latino community.
Which is a fantastic real-world application of this information.
Yeah.
But before we jump into those materials, I really need to step in and offer a vital clarification for you, the listener.
Go for it.
The transcript from Nick Hanna contains some highly politically charged content. It heavily discusses Israel, the Israeli Defense Forces, the war in Gaza, and several international human rights allegations.
Right. It gets very intense.
Yeah, it does. And we must explicitly state right here at the top that we are not taking sides, nor are we endorsing any of the political or geopolitical viewpoints presented in these sources.
Exactly. We are just the messengers today.
Precisely. Our goal is strictly to unpack the claims and ideas exactly as they appear in the source material. We just want to better understand the broader debate around data privacy.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with the what. What exactly is Cellebrite's arsenal? Looking at Hannah's research, he focuses heavily on their flagship product, the Universal Forensic Extraction Device, or the UFED.
Yeah, the UFED is the big one.
From what I gather, this is the hardware that bypasses passcodes. But what exactly is it pulling out of the phone? Are we just talking about a text message history here?
Not at all. I mean, when Hannah's transcript says it downloads everything, it truly means the entire digital ecosystem of the device.
Even the hidden stuff.
Especially the hidden stuff. It pulls chats from encrypted apps like Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram, Threema. It recovers deleted messages that the user thought were, gone forever. But beyond the actual messages, it pulls down all your metadata.
Okay, metadata. That is a term that gets thrown around a lot in privacy debates. How should we actually conceptualize that? Because it can sound a bit abstract.
It can. Think of it this way. If a text message or a photograph is a letter you sent to a friend, the metadata is the postmark on the envelope.
I like that.
Right. It tells you exactly where it was mailed, what time it was processed, how much postage was paid. So it's the GPS coordinates attached to every single photo you take. It's the exact millisecond a message was drafted versus when it was actually sent.
So it's the data about the data.
Exactly. And then the UFE gets into what Hannah calls hidden data. On an iPhone running iOS 15 or later, this device can extract over 130 categories of biome files.
Biome files? I've never even seen a file like that on my phone.
Because they aren't meant for the user to see. Biome files are essentially the digital footprints you leave in the sand as you walk through your daily life.
What kind of footprints are we talking about?
They detail every Wi-Fi network you've ever connected to. Every single time you put your phone in airplane mode, every push notification you received, and exactly when your phone's screen was locked and unlocked.
That is wild. And that brings me to the murder trial I mentioned at the top of the show. I read the note about the Karen Reed trial in our outline, but I honestly couldn't really wrap my head around it. How does a phone's battery temperature or a pocket state prove a murder?
That is where the sheer granularity of this technology becomes apparent. So Karen Reed was accused of killing her boyfriend in Massachusetts.
Right.
The defense argued he could have been killed inside a house while the prosecution argued she killed him outside in the freezing cold. To prove their point, prosecutors brought in a Cellebrite expert.
Okay, so what did they do?
This expert used the UFED to extract the victim's iPhone battery temperature data. Naturally, a phone's internal battery temperature drops significantly when it is exposed to a freezing environment.
I didn't even know my phone was logging its own temperature. That's kind of creepy.
It is continually logging its own physical state. And the expert combined that temperature data with data showing the phone's pocket state.
Pocket state meaning what exactly?
It's a sensor record that logs exactly when the phone's camera is blocked by the fabric of a pocket or a bag versus when it is out in the open.
Wow.
So by cross-referencing the dropping battery temperature with the exact moments the phone was in or out of a pocket, they tried to pinpoint his exact location and environment at the time of death. What's fascinating here is the fundamental shift in how surveillance operates.
How do you mean?
Historically, authorities wanted to track your communications, who you were talking to and what you were saying to them. But this technology shifts the focus to tracking microbehaviors.
It's physical.
Yes. It tracks how you physically interact with your environment, and the UFED is just the tip of the spear.
Yeah, the outline mentions a few other tools in their ecosystem. What else are they using to map these micro behaviors?
Well, Hannah's investigation outlines a cloud product which pulls data not stored on your physical phone at all.
So stuff that's floating out on servers.
Exactly. We are talking about your complete Uber ride history, your Airbnb stays, your online purchase history. Then there is Endpoint Inspector, which allows for remote extraction.
Oh, remote?
Yeah, law enforcement doesn't even need to hold your physical device. They can pull the data from across the world.
That's terrifying.
And finally, there is Pathfinder. Pathfinder uses artificial intelligence to analyze this massive lifetime of downloaded data in a matter of minutes. It instantly maps out your movements, your daily routines, and a complex web of all your interactions.
So the tech is terrifyingly precise. But tech doesn't operate in a vacuum. Who is actually building this stuff, and who are they selling it to?
According to the background dive provided in the transcript, Cellebrite is headquartered just outside Tel Aviv, with offices globally.
And they have a public face, right?
They do. If you look at their corporate website, they list their stated core values as personal privacy, public safety, transparency, and respect for individual rights.
Bahana takes issue with that.
He contrasts those stated values heavily with the company's origins and staffing. Former CEO Yossi Carmel, who is a former lieutenant colonel in the Israeli military, actually admitted in 2021 that the vast majority of Cellebrite employees come from the Israeli military's elite cyber warfare division, known as Unit 8200.
Now, Hannah's transcript makes some very severe allegations about Unit 8200. And again, we are going to impartially relay those to you exactly as they are presented in the material.
Important context to keep in mind.
Definitely. The transcript alleges that Unit 8200's primary historical goal has been the mass surveillance of Palestinians. He cites a whistleblower who claims the unit collects highly sensitive personal data from civilians.
Like what kind of data?
For example, finding out if someone is secretly gay, cheating on a spouse, or in need of urgent medical treatment. The allegation is that they use this intensely private information to blackmail civilians into becoming informants.
The materials also detail an artificial intelligence targeting system called Lavender, which is allegedly developed by Unit 8200.
I saw that. It's intense.
According to the claims presented by Hannah, this AI processes mass surveillance data to generate lists of people to be killed in Gaza. The transcript states there is minimal human oversight in this process, and that the military actually pre-authorizes allowances for civilian casualties for each target.
The numbers he cited were shocking.
They range from 15 to 20 permissible civilian casualties for a junior operative, and up to 300 permissible civilian casualties for certain high-level targets.
The materials also bring up the Lebanon pager attacks from last September. That was the event where thousands of explosive devices hidden inside pagers were detonated simultaneously across the country. It ended up killing and maiming fighters and civilians, including children.
And Hannah connects this back to the unit.
He claims Unit 8200 played a key role in the operation. He specifically notes that former CIA Director Leon Panetta publicly described the attack as a form of terrorism. Hannah's broader point in bringing all this up is that Cellebrite doesn't distance itself from Unit 8200.
No, not at all.
Instead, they openly boast in investor presentations about having world-class talent from the unit, claiming it gives them unmatched technological capabilities.
And those capabilities are being aggressively exported across the globe. Hannah provides a long list of international clients, heavily alleging that the technology is used by repressive regimes to stifle dissent.
Where specifically?
He cites reports of the tech being used in Bahrain against a blogger who was subsequently tortured for speaking out against human rights abuses. The transcript lists its use against Reuters journalists in Myanmar, against journalists in Botswana, simply over COVID-19 Facebook posts, and by the Rapid Action Battalion in Bangladesh, which is a paramilitary unit accused of extrajudicial killings.
It's not just happening overseas, though. The materials note the technology is used extensively in the U.S. by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and has allegedly been utilized by universities to crack down on peaceful campus protesters.
It's everywhere.
And Cellebrite is actively expanding its reach. The notes mention they recently spent $200 million to purchase a U.S. startup called Corellium to expand their hacking intellectual property. The outline specifically mentions zero-day exploits in relation to this, but what does that actually mean for the average person?
Think of a zero-day exploit like a secret underground tunnel into a bank vault that the bank manager doesn't even know exists yet.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
It is a vulnerability in a software system, like Apple's iOS or Google's Android, that the software creators are completely unaware of, meaning they have 0 days to fix it before it gets exploited by hackers.
And Corellium just finds these tunnels.
Companies like Corellium are highly controversial because they discover or develop these secret tunnels. In fact, Corellium previously offered its products to the NSO Group, the creators of the infamous Pegasus spyware.
Right. Pegasus was huge news a few years ago.
Exactly. So by purchasing Corellium, Cellebrite is essentially buying a massive armory of these secret tunnels to ensure their UED devices can always bypass the latest smartphone security updates.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. We've all seen police procedural shows. You might be thinking, well, the police can't just take my phone and download my life without a good reason and a judge's warrant.
You would hope so.
But according to Hannah's investigation, in many places, they absolutely can. He breaks down a bizarre legal loophole in Australia, specifically in New South Wales. If the police there want to tap your phone calls or search your physical house, they need to go to a judge, present evidence of a crime, and get a warrant.
Standard procedure.
Right. But to plug your phone into a Cellebrite device and download your entire digital life, no warrant is required.
It is a staggering inconsistency in the law. I mean, our legal frameworks are treating a device that holds our entire psychological profile with less protection than the physical glove box of a 1998 Honda Civic.
It's absurd when you put it like that.
And Resid contrasts this Australian reality with a 2014 United States Supreme Court case, Riley v. California. In that case, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that police generally do need a warrant to search a mobile phone.
Because it's not just a pocketbook.
Exactly. They recognize that searching a phone is actually more like searching a home and potentially even more intrusive than just emptying someone's physical pockets during an arrest. Yet, according to the transcript, Australian courts have not adopted this standard.
So what happens there?
Police can seize a phone during a routine drug search for a tiny amount of marijuana or even just ask for it during a traffic stop, knowing people are intimidated and don't realize they have the right to say no.
And this legal gap has a devastating impact on totally innocent people. Hannah's transcript mentions this isn't just an issue for accused criminals, it heavily impacts victims and witnesses.
People trying to help the police.
Yes. He brings up the high-profile Australian case of Brittany Higgins, who reported a sexual assault. She handed her phone to the authorities to help with the investigation.
Thinking they'd just take the relevant texts.
Right. But the police used Cellebrite on her phone in an entire 56,000-page download, which included her deeply private counseling notes, was handed over to the defense lawyers.
That is a staggering violation of privacy for someone seeking justice. 56,000 pages.
Hannah mentions another case he worked on directly. A woman was sexually assaulted on a Hinge date. She willingly gave her phone to the police to show them the relevant text messages she had exchanged with her attacker. Without telling her, the police downloaded her entire phone.
Unbelievable.
They then handed a partial download over to her attacker's defense lawyers. This download included completely irrelevant, sexually explicit messages she had exchanged with an entirely different man.
The trauma of that must be immense.
She told Hannah that if she had known the police were going to give her private, unrelated life to her abuser's lawyers, she might have thought twice about reporting the crime at all.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the societal implications are incredibly damaging. It creates a massive psychological chill.
A chilling effect on justice.
Precisely. If victims of crimes, especially sexual assault or domestic violence, believe that stepping forward means their entire digital history, their health data, their private conversations, their location history, will be exposed and potentially weaponized against them by their abusers in court. They will simply stop reporting crimes.
Why would you, if that's the risk?
The justice system inherently relies on witnesses and victims coming forward. This kind of unrestricted data extraction directly undermines the foundation of that process.
So if police are downloading tens of thousands of phones across the globe, where does all this data actually go once it leaves the police station?
Hannah did a Freedom of Information-style deep dive into Australian federal contracts to find out. He specifically looked at agreements between Cellebrite and Services Australia. He uncovered clauses in the licensing agreements that are, frankly, alarming.
Alarming in what way?
The documents reveal that the service agreements authorize Cellebrite, in certain circumstances, to remotely access, retain, and even modify personal data on the devices they are providing services for.
Wait, modify? As in change the data that is being used as evidence?
That is what the contractual language suggests is possible.
That's a defense lawyer's nightmare.
Furthermore, the storage of this data is shifting. Historically, police departments kept this downloaded data on localized, encrypted hard drives sitting in an evidence room at the police station.
Very disconnected.
Right. However, Hannah points out that Cellebrite is actively pushing law enforcement agencies to transition to the cloud. They are encouraging police departments worldwide to upload all this extracted citizen data into a centralized cloud environment so it can be analyzed more efficiently by their Pathfinder AI.
And it isn't just any cloud, is it?
No. The infrastructure being used is Amazon Web Services, or AWS. The transcript notes that AWS has its own deep ties to the Israeli military. Hannah specifically cites a $1.2 billion contract known as Project Nimbus.
What does Project Nimbus do?
It provides advanced AI and computing services directly to the military. Hannah makes sure to clarify that he doesn't have hard smoking gun proof that Cellebrite is actively siphoning up all this global citizen data for intelligence purposes.
He's just looking at the connections.
Exactly. He argues that given their military intelligence origins, the contractual clauses allowing remote access, and the aggressive push toward a centralized cloud, the risk to global privacy is simply far too high to ignore.
So what does this all mean? How do everyday people fight back when the technological and legal systems are this stacked against them? It means that right now, grassroots tech literacy isn't just a nice to have. It is an absolute necessity.
Couldn't agree more.
And that is exactly where our second source comes into play. The Independent Thinker LLC strategy is a brilliant example of fighting back with education. They took the incredibly dense technical information from Hannah's deep dive and turned it into a project brief for a Data Privacy Day public service announcement.
It is a highly strategic approach to taking complex cybersecurity topics and making them accessible to a wider audience. They are specifically targeting the Hispanic and Latino community with a bilingual campaign.
Which is so needed.
Definitely. They recognize that digital literacy needs to reach communities that are often disproportionately targeted by surveillance tools like the ones used by ICE.
What I love about the second source is how detailed they are about the aesthetics of the campaign. They aren't making some boring academic lecture. The PSA is designed strictly for mobile screens, using a vertical 1080 by 1920 format.
Because that's how people consume media now.
Exactly. You have to meet the audience where they are, and everyday people are scrolling on their phones. The brief specifies using vibrant, futuristic visuals and vector graphics. Instead of just talking about metadata or biome files, they want to visually illustrate these abstract concepts of data harvesting and digital footprints so a layperson can actually see what they are losing.
The choice of narrator in their brief is also very deliberate. They specify that the voiceover should be a female voice with a casual New York City accent.
Oh, I loved that detail. Why do you think they chose that?
It strips away the intimidating institutional tone that usually accompanies cybersecurity warnings. It frames the issue not as a high-level geopolitical debate, but as street-smart tech literacy.
It makes it real.
Yeah, it's about giving people practical knowledge to protect themselves in a digital world that views their personal data as an all-you-can-eat buffet. Education is the crucial first line of defense for the average citizen. But as Hannah's transcript points out, education alone cannot fix the structural legal issues at play here.
Right. Hannah ends his presentation with two main recommendations for fixing this systemic mess. First, he argues that government agencies need to drop Cellebrite entirely.
Just cut ties.
Yeah. He cites the heavy human rights allegations and the sheer security risks of trusting foreign intelligence veterans with domestic citizen data. He points out that there are other competitors in the market, like magnet forensics, that agencies can use instead to do their jobs without the same geopolitical baggage.
Makes sense. And his second point.
Second, and probably most importantly, he demands strict, modernized legislation. He says laws must be passed universally requiring police to get a judge's warrant before extracting phone data, legally limiting that extraction to only the data strictly relevant to the specific crime, and mandating that the data be permanently deleted once the investigation is over.
Those legal guardrails are completely standard for physical searches of a home or a business. It is a glaring, dangerous oversight that they do not universally apply to digital searches in the 21st century.
I want to speak directly to you for a second as you listen to this deep dive. Your smartphone is no longer just a device that makes phone calls or sends emails. It is essentially an external hard drive for your brain.
It holds everything.
It holds your memories, your health records, your financial life, and your most private, intimate conversations. Protecting that device from unwarranted mass extraction is rapidly becoming the definitive civil liberties fight of our era.
This raises an important question, something for you to mull over after we finish here today. We talked earlier about Cellebrite spending $200 million to buy Corellium, effectively hoarding zero-day exploits and hacking capabilities.
Right.
At the same time, we discussed how they're pushing global law enforcement agencies to upload all of their extracted citizen data into a single, centralized AWS cloud ecosystem.
The Nimbus connection.
Exactly. The transcript rightfully warns about the danger of Cellebrite, or a specific government inappropriately accessing that data. But consider this completely different angle. If all the world's hacked, deeply intimate personal data from millions of innocent citizens, victims of crimes, and witnesses across the globe is pooled into a single, centralized cloud, isn't the ultimate threat no longer just local police overreach?
What are you getting at?
Well, by centralizing all of this extracted digital life into one place, aren't we actively creating the most lucrative target in human history for a catastrophic, world-altering mega breach by a hostile nation-state or a rogue hacking syndicate?
Oh, wow. That is a terrifying but absolutely vital thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the realities of digital surveillance. Stay curious, protect your passcodes, and always keep questioning the digital world around you. We'll see you next time.
For more episodes related to media, social media, tech, and privacy, visit our YouTube channel, Independent Thinker LLC.